maybe the Binance situation accelerated the point of failure.
Yeah.
But by the way they were, based on the way they were running the business, failure was inevitable.
Inevitable. So let's continue with the second part, where he basically describes from his opinion, as he states it multiple times, how FTX went down.
So let me ask you directly. You were an investor in FTX, and I know you've spoken frequently with Sam Bankman-Fried over an extended period of time. Why do you believe FTX failed?
Before I continue, Mr. Toomey or Tommy, whatever his name is, he seems like one of, during the whole hearing, he seems like one of the most knowledgeable ones about the actual blockchain. He was talking about contracts and all the aspects you know about, and the others were more saying
Repeating,
talking
repeating
in
what people
general
told me.
terms.
Objection, hearsay.
They were talking in general terms. So,
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, let's continue.
I have an opinion. I don't have the records. Here it is. After my accounts were stripped of all of their assets and all of the accounting and trade information, I couldn't get answers from any of the executives in the firm, so I simply called Sam Bankman-Fried and said, "Where is the money, Sam?" He said he had been refused access to the servers. He no longer knew. I said, "Okay, let's step back. This is a simple case in my mind of where did the money go?" I said, "Sam, why don't you go 20 years? Tell me the use of proceeds of the assets of your company. Where did you spend it?" And then he told me about a transaction that occurred over the last 24 months, the repurchase of his shares from Binance, his competitor. I didn't know this at the time, but at some point, CZ or Binance, who runs Binance, purchased 20% ownership in Sam Bankman-Fried's firm for seed stock. And then over time, and I asked him, what would compel you to spend $2 billion was the number he was giving me at that time. Later, in a subsequent conversation, about 24 hours later, he told me it could have been as much as $3 billion to buy back the shares from CZ. I asked him, what would compel you to do that? Why wouldn't you keep your assets on your balance sheet? And why would you offer this to just one shareholder? He said, because every time we went to get licensed in different jurisdictions, because you must understand the prize of crypto is to get regulated. For all the talk we say about Bitcoin and everything else, no institutions own this. I work for the sovereign wealth and pension plans. They don't touch this stuff because it's unregulated. Between these two, let's call them frenemies, because they obviously were potentially the two largest shareholders in the firm, they had a disagreement. They had a falling apart. Apparently, according to Sam Bankman-Fried, CZ would not comply with the regulators' request in these different geographies, these different jurisdictions, to provide the data that would clear them for a license. He withheld it, according to Sam Bankman-Fried. The only option the management and Sam Bankman-Fried had was to buy him out at an extraordinary valuation of close to $32 billion, less apparently a 15% discount. That stripped the balance sheet of assets. You ask me why it went bankrupt? Go to the last week. All of a sudden, in social media, CZ is asking for another $500 million. He wants to do a block trade of FTT, or the proprietary token of FTX. Wants it converted back to fiat. Why would you put that out there? You know it's going to push down the pressure. It's going to push down the value of that coin dramatically, and that's exactly what happened. Every trade I know, if you have a large block trade, you go negotiate a clearing price with other buyers and you do the transaction. In my view, my personal opinion, these two behemoths that own the unregulated market together and grew these incredible businesses in terms of growth were at war with each other. And one put the other out of business intentionally. Now, maybe there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe there's nothing wrong with love and war. But Binance is a massive, unregulated global monopoly now.
Bruh.
They put FTX out of business. Now, lots of other reasons, I'm sure, but that's my personal opinion. That is what Sam Bankman-Fried told me in terms of where the assets went. Why should we care? Single reason. I'm a shareholder. You tell me the two largest shareholders do a transaction together, that's a related party transaction. I'm not sure that's okay. Maybe I want a Madoff clawback on those proceeds. Maybe I want to pursue that.
Mr. O'Leary, I'm sorry, you're about 3 minutes over. You have
Thought it was a meme. So, you know what? The clock.
It wasn't. It wasn't me.
That's a weird. That's a weird.
Well, I might have to cut that one out. Anyway,
When,
RJ.
or when I'm rambling.
Huh?
Or when I'm rambling, talking too much. I'm sorry,
Yes,
sir.
yes. Well, I have one for you. Well, not for you, but I
Yeah.
have one already lined up, but I'm not gonna use it today, unless you. Anyway, guys, RJ, what is your thoughts about this explanation by Kevin? Knowing what we know, with which the topic we discussed. I think we discussed this quite extensively a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. Well, in our show, in the show of a couple of weeks ago, where we discussed this story, we went deeper in the story and discovered other things. So it might be that what he's saying is true, but as we established, there was so the company was managing $16 billion, I believe, without any company structure, just a couple of so I guess there were like 10 people who were managing and running the company, and these 10 people were also involved in a polyamorous relationship. Now, I don't know which led to which. So is it because you're in a relationship with that person that they got the job, or was it a prerequisite? I don't know. But yeah, so I don't hear him talking about that problem. I hear him talking from the point of view of a investor
Or an endorser.
or endorser or endorser. Yeah. So yeah, so it's like maybe the contract is still on. He's still yo, you still need to get his money, man. So I think we need to see what we need to. So yeah, so let's, because we're done with the story, right? Kevin O'Leary story, but I think it's really one-sided. It's not covering all the real problems, because maybe the Binance situation accelerated the process, the point of failure.
Yeah.
But based on the way they were running the business, failure was inevitable.
Inevitable. Yeah, I do agree with you on that. I think CZ put kind of gas on the fire that was already lining the way towards the end.